was born in actually Lackawanna, New York. My mom and dad adopted me and my twin sister from there, our father Baker's infant home. And I grew up in Ohio, Ashtabula, most of my life. Never went anywhere. I think the first one was the Johnstown, Pennsylvania, where they had a big flood. And that was it about vacations. I was just working at McDonald's, and I said, well, it was still, they could have, I didn't get drafted, but you could volunteer. So I volunteered in the Navy and went down to recruiting in Ashtabula. In fact, my recruiter is still alive and still in Ashtabula. Yeah. And well, he told me what I expected, so I went in as an electrician mate, so I went to boot camp in Orlando and went in December 7th of 1973, Pearl Harbor Day. I do not remember when I got out, so it had to be December, January, maybe February, I think. I was definitely immature going in there. Hell, boot camp, I thought I was going to lose weight. I gained it. I still can't do push-ups. Went up to Great Lakes EMA school, flunked out a 4th week MEGAMS. That's the honest thing. I got through basic electricity, electronics, and MEGAMS was a little difficult, but we never used it on the ship. It was just, they didn't use it anymore. But tried it again, and I didn't pass, so they're going to send me out as an engineman. Well, I had hung around with a 2nd class EM named Greenwood. He was a black guy that I hung around with. Bob, his actually first name was Bob. And I did the thing that you don't do. I requested the Saratoga. You hope to get something, maybe not the Sarah, but because I still want to be an electrician. So I sent him a letter. I said, hey, I got orders to the Sarah. I said, they want to make me an engineman. I still want to be an electrician. Is there anything you can do? You pull any strings for me. I didn't know. So they sent me down there on my orders. I got down to Mayport. They wouldn't let me wait 3 days for the ship to come in. They flew me out to it on a mail cod, or whatever they call them. I call them the cods. And as we got out in the ocean, and of course, young kid going, what the hell? And the pilot goes, there's the Saratoga. It's about that big. The closer we got, you know what came out of my mouth. What the F did I get myself into? Oh, and it's just plain, won't use the harsh language, but and as we got closer and closer, the thing got bigger and bigger. And it was like, OMG, and this is what I'm going to be on. So we circled a couple of times, and as we got ready to land, they told us to, you know, prepare and look. And I was leaning, and I watched the deck come up a little bit off the chair like it was not supposed to be, and we hit the resting gear. That plane stopped like, now, bam! A little headache coming off the plane, got my sea bag, and they were in the middle of flight ops, and went through the hatch on the main deck there, and there he was in the corner. He says, come with me. So that started my thing as electrician mate. They did do the normal like they do when you come on the ship. I went right to E Division and went to the light shop and got some of my pictures in the frickin' cruise books. But it's funny because they sent you after things that didn't exist, like a skyhook, a smoke pot, a left-handed monkey wrench. Well, the Marines, they would put them on a mail buoy watch, but they'd give them the order. They all knew it wasn't right, and they'd have to stand at the fantail and, you know, look with a hook, look for the mail buoy. All crazy stuff. And then they had the best one out of the kind of jokes that went on, you know, just the, they called it was the sea bat. I don't know if you've heard that one yet. Well, what they would do, they put a thing in a box and have somebody shake the box, and they wouldn't even know how it was shaking. Then people come up and look. If they got close enough, they'd whack you with a broom and yell sea bat. Yeah, people get mad, but then they realize, we had a little lieutenant, JG, came up and got stuck in there, and the commander was watching him because he knew what was going to happen. And he got a little too close, and they yelled, sea bat, and they whacked him. But he wanted to write everybody up. And the commander says, nope, you fell for the worst one you could ever fall for. Went to the light shop. think I spent a year and a half there, because then I eventually ended up down to auxiliary machine room. In the light shop, we did the lights and stuff throughout the ship, changed them, so I went from down to light shop to auxiliary machine room, is where they made the 1,200-pound steam. We got two SFG ship service turbo generators down there, all off of steam. We were running those. We had two of them, 5 and 6 board. I was mainly, our office was on 5 board, and I worked off of 6. Just you know, normal work, electrical work, changing out motors, panels, fixing them, changing out we had a ventilation shaft that went out like 3 times. It was up in the worst corner you could get them, but we learned how to rig stuff and take them down, wash our clothes down there, sleep on the back of the board when we come back from little hotty toddies on the lunchtime. But no, I learned a lot. We got qualified on emergency generators, and oh God, there was a special freak turbo generator. Don't remember what those actually did, because once I got off the ship, I forgot all that stuff. I was an inboard load dispatcher, so I handled the load coming from shore power into the ship, but I never did load dispatcher out on sea. My GQ station was 6 board, so we stayed down there. A lot of stuff going on at night, people hearing things, and we had somebody was, I guess, killed on 4 board, burned, and George was his name. This was back before I got on there. Back, they had some fires and stuff. We had a couple. They got them out, but best part is when you went dead in the water, everything dropped. Oh yeah, so they're trying to get the boilers relit, and then once they get the boilers relit, you're trying to get the generator back online. And as you go, you got to get the thing at 5 till. If you don't, it's going to go around again, and then they get mad at you at Central because you didn't hit it. Remember, hit it 5 till, boom, then you pop your generator back in. And you slowly get back up the line and head out. But it's eerie when you're down here. All you got is little battle lanterns. Got flashlights because there's no lights. But what they call battle lanterns were like emergency lights now, lights and stuff. But first cruise was, well, I got to grow a beard because always broke out in the bottom. So I was able to get a chit, and they passed it. Some medical passed me. So I grew a beard, plus a lot of other guys grew beards. And our first cruise in '74, we took off, and we all had beards and bald heads. My mother always said I had an egg head, and it proved it. Yeah, our first cruise got over, I think we went through Rota, Gibraltar. You know, it's just weird that you're over the Med. There was dangerous, because we had to, you know, you had to be careful. I mean, I worked around the switchgear and stuff, and you know, I'm trying to remember what kind of voltage was going through all that. I do not remember all that, because they were, I just knew ship service, and you don't mess with the backs unless they're knocked off. You know, they ain't got no power to them once you go cleaning them. But we had, I was actually changing a sponson and a red light on #1 sponson, 74 cruise, I believe. Yeah, because it was right before we were supposed to go to the 75, in January, the next cruise, 75. And we were refueling with the Mississinawa. She went dead. So needless to say, we dragged her right into the #1 spot. So I had just left there about an hour before, and to change the red light because they were going to go in the night refueling, and she hit us, put us at a 10 degree, and they're yelling, Mississinawa, all back full, all back full. We're running to our GQ stations, which was on 5 board, and it was like, yeah, it was different. But like going into port, rough water. They got pictures of her going through I don't remember going through really rough water. The worst I think is when we were going to Lisbon. And we were taking 10 degree list. And that's a lot for a carrier. Except the destroyers are doing this. You know, it's like, and they're playing on the fantail and all that stuff, running around. And we're just watching. I was behind a Vigilante, or no, I mean, sorry, it was a A7 Corsair. It was chalked up. I just come up from the light shop, it was right there. As soon as it came down this thing, that thing went chunk. Oh, I went down. But, yeah, we had some fires in the middle of the night. One time we did have a GQ, and then it was about 2 hours later, it says, oh, this was a drill. Mostly were drills, you know. I met one of the pilots with the Vigilante Squadron. His nickname was Tiny. Holden was his name. He ended up dying. They crashed coming into the ship, bad weather. Butt end of the ship caught her coming into the landing, and they broke up, exploding over the edge. And then we went to 76, was the bicentennial. It was different over there, like I said, we went to split Yugoslavia. And that was the highlight of our 76 cruise, that and going to Monte Carlo. But Split was great. I mean, people would just come up to you in broken English, invite you. They had not that much refrigeration, but you could go into the bar, well, not really bars, but the restaurants. Right. And people would invite you to their houses, which they did. We didn't have to go in groups with officers and all this other stuff, you know. And it was pretty cool seeing that communist star on their license plates. They had like 10,000 visitors go on between the two frigates that came in, plus the Sarah. They took them out on the U-boats to visitation and stuff. So it's pretty neat. Well, we left there on the 19th of April and didn't get back into a port until like 31st of May. We were outside Lebanon. They won't say nothing. It was never in our records. They were having a conflict. And I'm still trying to get into VFW because it says Lebanon continue. But the guy in Ohio that does it, that okays it, I won't okay it. I okay stuff. So whatever. But learned a lot, you know. I just, that's where I got my crow. Then they tacked it on, hurt your arm for a while. It's called tacking your crow on when you get it. So it's like, these people in football, they go through this it's like a hazing thing. I don't think they do it anymore. But when you get the crow on, that's the big thing, because you've gone from fireman, apprentice, recruit, and then fireman, because we were in the firemen, they had the Airedales, which is the air wing. And then once you became your EM, you passed the test. Now you're electrician mate, and you're third class. Now you don't get it ever tacked on again, but the third class was the big one. That was part of the, and then see how low your arm hangs afterwards, because everybody gets you. Sometimes they'd line you up and just come by and bang, 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 bang. Especially if you're in a shop, they'll all hit you. But it happened for a long time. I think they finally had to stop it, you know, because now they have women on the ships and stuff. A lot of that stuff happened. But definitely, it was different. I miss it. I mean, I do at my age now. I do miss it. I learned a lot. That was one thing. Pay wasn't the greatest, but you had enough. And then I regret, the only thing I really regret, not going to Rome. And everybody told you, go to Rome. Make sure. I did go to Genoa, because that's where my grandparents were from. So I did go there. I went to Pompeii. I got 2 of them out of 3. But a lot of travel, different places. Our bicentennial was the best. We went to Monte Carlo. Met Princess Grace and Prince Rainier. Princess Caroline, which was our age. She was a doll. And I helped with the flag raising ceremony with the French National Guard there. I had Ohio, with our flag of Ohio. Well, I was in a choir then too. We put on a performance. I don't know if any dignitaries came for that. I think they did, but I just don't remember who it was. And then Ringo Starr came, we had a band. In fact, one guy's here that played on the band. I just met him the other day. And he complimented them. But just different things that happen you never think would happen on a ship. That was the first guy who knew how to pronounce my last name. Was the guy, the director, our commander. I said, how did you know? He said he knew an AP captain, my last name. Oh, okay. I did contact him too, but my last name, that part is, well, there's a lot of them. They all come from Canada. A lot of times you weren't sure what was happening, because communications wasn't the best sometimes, because you didn't know what was happening when you're out there or what we were doing. We're doing flight ops all the time. We just know once we got to port, you can run, blow some steam off. The bicentennial was probably the best. In fact, the last 2 cruises weren't that bad. No, I actually learned a lot more the last cruise, and just find all the guys that come on new, and then you know that you're over them because you're their boss for a while. I had first class I thought I'd never see again. I'm in San Diego, reserve unit, and there's And he was, Bob Tuttle was his name. He was a black guy. He borrowed my car all the time. And he always did this too. And then I'm going down saying, about Jersey, there's this chief down there. And he's doing that. There's no way it was him. I hadn't seen him, this was '83. I got out in '77. It's the last time I saw him. He was then the chief engineer on the Fox. He was a senior chief. We had one officer that I did not get along with because he just kept making us have field days left and right. I mean, I didn't know what else we could clean on these stairways going, because our central control is right there off of our board. And just, he picked and picked, but I guess that's what he had to do. He did write me up. Then he went on leave, came back, says, I'm gonna let you go. I didn't get a good report for that quarter. But most chiefs were, as long as you did your job, you never had trouble. And if you needed something, they would. Officers were pretty cool. Like I said, our last command, the last two were great. Our first command wasn't, no. Our chief engineer was just, yeah, nobody liked him. Engineering was, he just, yeah. But, distribution, chiefs were all good, first class. As long as you didn't do nothing wrong and get in trouble. No, it was just like going to job, going to work. Sometimes you don't like what you do, and then you do, But we were right beside the HS-7 squadron, and just before I left there, I got permission to go on a helicopter ride. We were going to go out for, they go do the whatever support for the aircraft and stuff. We were out there for a while. All of a sudden, about 20 minutes, we're back on the ship. We had a hydraulic leak. Oh, great. Well, they told me after we got off the ship. They didn't tell me why I was out there, flying around in a helicopter. But I got one of the guys to finally take a picture, because we were actually going out there because of some Russians were refueling. And they refuel from the bow to the stern. They don't sidewise like we do on our replenishments. So he got me some pictures finally. Yeah, that's the second deployment, so the third. I had 74, we went 74 to 75. Man, what time did we, yeah. Then we went 76, was the bicentennial, and then 77. And I was supposed to get flown off, but nah, they cheated me. They left me in Palma. Said 8 o'clock in the morning, said pack your seat bag up, you're out of here at 10 o'clock, 10:00. And I left, and so got to see her go bye-bye. I wanted to get flown off, because I got flown off. That's what they kept telling me. I was going to re-enlist, but I didn't. I was going to go to my chief engineer, who was Captain Cannon. Well, he became captain while I was on there, and he had me talked into going to Bath, Maine, gas turbine school for the FFGs. But nobody talked to me. Nobody called me down for the re-enlistment. Then they took our SRB, which would have been our bonus, from 3 to 0, and I wasn't re-enlisting. So basically, that was it for that. I did re-affiliate once I got out. When I moved, I went to, well, they flew me across the ocean to, where did I go at? Philly? Jacksonville's where I got out. And I went to my brother's. He was living down in Louisiana at the time. Big snowstorm up here in Ohio. In '78, I wasn't coming up, so I stayed there for 8 years. Married, 2 kids, divorced, came home. Man, same thing here, married, 2 kids, and I had to raise them. But no, I drilled in NR, Naval Marine Corps Reserve Training Unit, NRMTF, I can't remember, down in Orange, Texas, was the first place I affiliated with the reserves. Drilled on a LST, one of the things that land, and that was the only 2 weeks I spent on that. As soon as I got back, I transferred to SIMA San Diego, so I spent a couple of years. The last one I spent there, I refurbished their casualty power cables, because I was an E4, so I did a grunt job that they didn't want to do, because I was a reservist. So they can't even treat us the best, but, and then I came back up, I started up in Ohio in '85. I got a divorce, came home. Started out of Youngstown actually with a fast frigate. But that didn't entice me. I heard they had a semi unit in Erie. So that's where I went and I stayed there. Attachment 305 out of Portsmouth. And that's where I spent my every 2 weeks was in Portsmouth. Until I was on the Fat Boy program, as they called it, and they were trying to kick everybody out. I had 15 and a half years, I only had 4.5 years to go. I was trying to get my 20 and then get out, so I could at least get something. And but they were kicking people out because you couldn't go nowhere. P&A to test, which was passed but not advanced for 12 years, twice a year. They wanted me to change my rate, but I wasn't becoming a CB because that was open. So I did electrician on the side, I did all that stuff, and maintenance, and then I learned how to weld, so I became a mechanic too. And then 45 years of that, plus construction. When I was younger, I did construction and stuff, so that was neat. I did a lot of later doing terminations and switchboards. But retired, got to retire. The class action suit got one. He said if you had 15 and 20 years, you could retire. 15, you get to retire now, and the 20 years got like another 6 or 8 months more reserve pay. So I retired in '93. I did go down to see Sarah in '90. I did not see it, put it that way. I went to a 2-week course in Mayport for electrical squib course. I got something on motor controls, and Sarah's just sitting over there. You think I will go see it? Nope. Done. No. 2 years later, it's done. It's supposed to be in Jacksonville. As I joined the association. It's supposed to be in Jacksonville as a museum, but nobody's going to see these ships. They cut them all up. And because Jacksonville Jaguars came, and in '08, Obama told us what we could do with it and sold it for $1. There it went. I tell everybody, and I'll tell them going to the Navy before going in the Army. You know, because you can learn a trade. You don't have to become an, I mean, even if you became an electronic technician and stuff like that, even working on the airplanes, a lot of them go right back into the civilian world. That's why I became an electrician. And my recruiter told me what to expect. And he was right, he never lied. But there's a lot of people that their recruiters lied to them. And like I said, I'm 69 years old, just turned, and I miss it now, I do. Whether I should have re-upped, I don't know. I'm glad I stayed in reserves because, well, they got me an extra vacation too from work because they had to let me go. I had fun in reserves, a lot better. But like I said, they ran, this was the cool part because here I am only 3rd class, but I'm doing all this stuff on the side. They had to run cat TV and cables and stuff, had to run cables and wire. And that's what I did on the outside. All the chiefs that came in at 2 weeks, they were from all over. They weren't just from, I think there was only a couple from our unit that went there at the same time. And I ran the crew. I got a nice little letter. Didn't give me E5, but nice commendation letter for what I did. And I still got that. I used that for if I was looking for jobs and stuff. So, but I started as an electrician, learned most of it there. And everything basically I learned from then on. I mean, I went to schools, went to, programming and all this other stuff. And construction, I learned from an old man on how to do conduit, different ways of using a whole stick and bending it with all the bends and making it in that one place instead of having used 2 or 3 paces. And that was my forte. I mean, every time I went to a job, I was doing that until I finally got down, like with the switchgear and stuff. I was running I'd go in the manholes with a fitter. We put in the cable trays for all the big wire.